in this solar system. If the cops and the bounty hunters don't get you, the syndicate will. There's no happy ending here.
Spoken like a man who's never been in love.
I was.
What happened?
I was dreaming.
I want to know if you guys know what's better than a buddy cop series.
Nothing.
A bounty hunting Cowboy Bebop trio. You guys are amazing in this series. I love the chemistry. Oh my gosh, the doggies! I love the dog in the frame.
Where's the dog?
Over
Right there beside you. We like your little doggy too.
Yes.
it looks like a funeral picture.
Kind of
Right.
Is he?
I'm still with
It
us.
was worth those like altar.
Spoiler alert. No, it's not actually. It's actually not. Oh my gosh, you guys, if you can't tell, I'm such a fan of this series and what you guys did with it and the world that it creates. I'm going to start with you, John. This is not your first rodeo, to use a catchphrase. And this is such a beloved property by fans, but what I love is, number one, you have these great one-liners. Like my favorite line in the whole thing is "That's between me and the eel." Mindy Kaling has tweeted about your hair, so it's already iconic. How many hours in the hair chair were you? But also just creating Spike and creating him for the fans who love the anime series, but making him your own.
A lot there. Yeah, it was daunting because I was aware that this was an iconic character and people were going to care deeply about how it was portrayed. So I wanted to do right by them, but it was also, it's a push and pull because you want to feel ownership yourself and you want to feel free and you want to have fun and you want to, on a day-to-day basis, you don't want to feel that burden. You don't want to interpret it as a burden. You know what I'm saying? So it was both wanting to do right by them and also wanting to feel free in the role. And so it was definitely balancing those two things was key to playing this role.
How do you get your collar to stay up and not go down? Did you ever have to stop a take for that reason, that the collar flipped down, or were they sort of starched up?
It had no crease. It was always meant to be up. I don't know if it was ever down. So
It didn't seem like it. Mustafa, number one, talk to me about the fact that you sort of have this duality to your character. You have the relationship with Spike, but then you're also this family guy. And I loved the sort of storyline with Sally the doll, was stuff of legends. So talk about sort of creating that chemistry between the two of you. But did you also have something as a kid that you always wanted? It was always sold out and you never got.
Yes, I will answer the latter question. Voltron, the metal one. I mean, it was not just sold out, it was way too expensive for a kid. I should buy one. Matter of fact, at the end of the day, I'm going to get on Amazon. But developing the character, I mean, it was just about, the natural dynamic is pulling Spike off the ledge, which gave me so much to do. And so like that was pretty easy because like he's antithetical to me. So there's always going to be this back and forth, bickering, friction. But at the same time, there's love. So there's going to be connection to make it go ongoing. And I think that, we did that.
Daniella, my favorite episode is actually episode 4. And I really think that's because that's when you all sort of become this amazing trio. If you can talk a little bit about that chemistry, creating that chemistry. And then I think I heard something about a boot camp, and how was the boot camp? How did that go down? Who's actually the coolest? Because it's such a cool series.
I'm not the coolest.
Wait, like who's the coolest in boot camp? It's definitely not me. I think the coolest in boot camp is Alex Hassell, and I'll tell you why. Because we all thought we were hot. We were trained. Moo's actually very athletically gifted. But I just remember Alex saying like that he had like so much wine and beer and chips coming from London, but he was a ballet dancer. So like when he would do a kick, it would just happen, and I deeply resented him for that.
Oh, he's intense.
I think Alex and Moo dominate the
boot camp.
Elena
wasn't no schmo either.
No, she wasn't actually.
Yeah, so
you're giving everybody else credit, not yourself.
I like coffee.
But if you can talk a little bit about that sort of that chemistry between the three of you, because it is pretty incredible. You all bring such different elements together. And Daniella, truly, when I watched you in the role, I was like, nobody else could have played this role like she did. Like, you're amazing in it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think got to spend a ton of time with each other. This show was, I think, the hardest thing that we had ever done. And I also think, keeping the show through the pandemic and through breaks and then training, we just went through a lot together. And I do think that bonded us.
What do you say, fellas? You want to team up? I was thinking a 60-40 split. Going my way, of course.
Do not shoot her.
Please?
No.
It's so good to see you both. You're both with sort of redhead brunette now. What is your relationship like with bleach after shooting the series? Wigs? Was it wigs or was it bleach?
Luckily,
Wigs,
it was
yeah.
wigs. Yeah, I am
Okay.
graying, but not quite that much.
Was it because of the series? This is an intense
Yeah, right.
series.
I was a 15-year-old before we started.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's great to see you both. As you can tell, I dove right into this. I love this series for the fact that, number one, it's based on a property that is so beloved, but also 140 sets or something like that. Like, no two scenes are the same. But for each of you, I'll start with you, Alex. What from the series, did you draw on, and how did you keep that in mind, but then create your own thing for this series?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess we ended up taking that the vicious in the anime is kind of the vicious that the person inside would like to be perceived as. That he would like to be seen as this very hard, cold, sartorially very elegant, poised, terrifying person. But that I think what the show, our version, sort of fleshed out was all of the beating heart underneath, and the vulnerability and the damage, and the kind of pain that was underneath. So it was trying to explore those two sides, I guess.
Wow. Elena, for you, Julia, there's much more of her in the series than in the original. So how did you get to sort of flesh out something new?
Well, the thing from the anime that I really took with me was the duality of the character. I really felt like, you either see her through the memories of Spike, so she's, it's a perception. And then when you actually see her in real time on the anime, she's like, she's running around shooting a gun, like she's a really different person. And so it was taking that into the live action and building on that and going, okay, well, here is the woman that these men, I think both of them, perceive her to be, this kind of angelic, maternal person. And then there's the real Julia, which is, somebody who is very, very capable of manipulation and taking care of herself. And that was really the thing that I kept in mind.
She's extremely shrewd, isn't she, in a way that I think the vicious is not really aware of until it's too late.
One thing I also noticed, because there's so many different genres, there's a very neo-noir element and almost like a romanticism to both of your characters and your relationship. Do you play that as actors, or because your voices are also very different in the series from actually talking to you right now?
There's definitely a kind of gothic element to our scenes, especially in our penthouse.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely one scene, I can't remember, I had to stride around, I'm wearing all black, I have a white wig or something, and the camera sort of pushed right into me as I said something like, I'm going to tear the temple down to the ground or something. And I sort of did a version of it. It was like, yeah, that's not enough. I think I need to, go bigger on it and kind of, really be, go kind of gothic on it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you really have to keep the genre in mind when you're doing something like this. Sometimes you might land on something and go, oh God, is this overacting? Is this too much? But then you really have to consider the world and consider the other half of the show, which we're not really a part of during season 1. So it's really we tonally need to be on the same page.
You mentioned the katana. Talk about the katana and the training behind working with that.
Yeah, the training was incredibly intense. So intense, in fact, that one of the early sessions I puked. We were pushed I sort of pushed myself so hard in terms of getting really fit that I ended up throwing up all over the floor. Well, that was only the one time. That's the dedication, the amount of dedication that I have to the role of vicious. But then aside from mopping that up, there was a great deal of work with the stunt team, this amazing stunt team of martial artists, world-class martial artists that really put me through my paces. It was very important to me to get to do as much of the fighting as I could in the eventual when we were filming it, and I'm very proud to say that I think 98% of it is me. And the reason, thank you, the reason that I wanted to do that is, one, it's really, really good fun, but also Vicious is so important to him to be so precise with his sword, to be so intimidating. It seemed like the real center of his character. So I needed to have some command, I felt, over that. And yeah, it was really important to me and to the character.
What the actual?
I suited up for this because I love this series so much and I love what you did with it. It doesn't feel like anything else out there. And what I loved hearing was that you were actually nervous to take on this property because it is so iconic and it's a cult classic. And I thought that showed real humility. So just talk me through that. I heard like the crew watched the original anime series together on set, bringing those elements and then also making it your own.
Yeah, well, a little dose of fear is always good to keep you honest. And I think overconfidence in taking on a project like this wouldn't have resulted in what we did. It's iconic and it's an incredible sandbox to get to play in. And for me, the most important thing, the directive, the thesis for the season was, we must live in the spirit of the anime. We must look at the choices that were made and make our choices, but at a lot of times, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That prop was in the anime and it looked pretty good. Like, why are we trying to fix it? Like, let's take the win. And then there were other areas where we knew that we needed to expand the canon. And from that, we did real deep forensic work on the canon, on the anime, to really mine every morsel of information that we could get, not only from the anime itself, but the inspirations in which to craft our narrative that we were going to tell.
I love that you say, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it, because I wish some other franchises would pay attention to that advice. I'll move on from that. I think I read something like 140 different sets, and I'm wondering, I don't know if that was the right number or not, but what I liked about it is that I don't think I saw a scene repeated twice or a set that felt like repeated twice, really. So talk about that. Like, the camera angles are also really cool. And I think they paid homage. Yep. And the fact that you have so many walk-on roles, like so many actors that probably came in for one scene and they're all so colorful. So just building that world.
Yeah. Oh my God. We had like the cast of Ben-Hur. It was enormous. And yes, we did shoot 1 million sets. And all of those were builds, right? All of those were worlds that we had to create. And it was exciting, because what I love about Bebop from the anime, and I feel I really was important to capture, was sort of like the non-dystopian version of the future, albeit it's a cowboy show and life is cheap and corporations are corrupt and the cops are criminals. It's still not dystopian. And we represent a world that has a nostalgia to the world that we live in. And I think that relatability helps tell the stories, but every one of those sets to walk onto was outstanding. Even things where in a normal show, you would go and rent a bar and shoot a scene in a bar. We would be like, I don't know, that bar is not Bebop enough. We gotta Bebop that out. So let's just build our own bar. And I think it really serves the style of the show incredibly well.
You know, the SNL, more cowbell. You're like, more Bebop, please.
Yeah.
Talk about the fact that Yoko came on and worked on so much of the music for the series, how that shaped it, because I really think the music is like another character watching it. You really feel that music.
Huge. The sonic identity of Cowboy Bebop, the anime, is unparalleled. So when Yoko said, like, let's do it, and she and I sat down and we chatted about the characters and the storytelling and the arcs and the scripts and the kinds of scenes, it was just magnificent. She's a true talent. She's a pure musician in the most profound way possible. And what a joy to work with her, and to have those jazzy licks, those Western riffs, those underbellies of action. It gives the show such an incredible identity.
All right, tell me your favorite Easter egg.
There's a really good Easter egg. It's not a hard one. It's actually pretty obvious. that the set decorator and I got into a big fight about, because I didn't want it and she wanted it and she demanded it. And I was like, you can't have it. And then I just finally gave in episode 4.
My favorite episode.
Oh, awesome. So I will leave it at that, and someone will find out what that Easter egg is.
I'm already thinking ahead to season 2. What would you like to build on in season 2 if given the opportunity?
I think that, to me, the best part about season 1 was looking at who these characters were, how their pasts caught up, and how they responded to them. And I think season 2 will have an interesting sort of continuation of building out these characters. So to me, I always sort of start from the who are they and what is their journey going to be? And where do I want to see them end up this year? And then once I know that, how do I retrofit the journey to get them there? Because part of what I think is important about these characters is that they often make the poorest choice they could make for themselves in any given moment. But I think that's part of their charm, is that they tend to go left when going right would just be the easy path. And that's part of the fun of it. So to be able to continue on that path would be amazing.
One last question. You can just tell me yes or no. Will Spike be more hungry or less hungry in season 2? He's very hungry.
Oh, that guy is always hungry.